What is up, guys? Frosty 0232 here today for another Frosty Features. So for those of you who haven't been with us before in Frosty Features, what this is a comic book background on the toons that you use in Marvel Strike Force. And today we are covering Captain America World War II. This is super exciting for me. I didn't start Frosty Features until we got kind of this more or less reworked Young Avengers, the people who came back around. It started off with Echo, so I missed a lot of the characters that came, that released with the game that have been around for a long time. So Captain America World War II is really fun, so I can come back and hit kind of Captain America. I'm gonna try to focus on World War II specifically, since that's the character we have. But he was there a lot, and there's a lot to go over, so I'm not even going to kind of touch on the iceberg-ness that is Captain America, but we are going to just talk about some stuff that maybe you didn't know about Captain America, and it might be kind of fun. Also, we stick to 616 canon, not the MCU, but the comic books. I will refer to the MCU because that is sort of everybody's knowledge base, but for the most part, we stick to the main continuity canon situation. Let's dive in. According to Scopely, Captain America World War II is like this. Horrified by newsreel footage of the Nazis attacking Europe, the young, good-hearted Steve Rogers enlisted in the army to fight in World War II. He was rejected due to his small size and underdeveloped physique, but his pleas to fight were overheard by a general in charge of an experimental government program. Through Project Rebirth, Rogers was given an experimental super soldier serum that gave him the peak human capabilities, including amazing strength and agility. He received extensive training and was given a shield composed of vibranium before receiving the title of Captain America. During the war, Captain America served as both a symbol of freedom and America's most effective special operative. He worked with his young sidekick, Bucky Barnes, and fought alongside other allied superpowered heroes as a part of the invaders. Okay, that's not, half of that's right, and we'll talk about that going forward. Half of that is correct. This is from, okay, Frosty, why did you pick such a crappy Captain America picture? This is from Captain America #1, right? This is a picture, this is his OG costume. I'll give you some fun facts about it. This is from the first issue. I know it's blurry. It's from the first issue. So his name, as we all know, the OG Captain America, his name is Steven Rogers. First appearance, Captain America Comics #1 in 1940, 1941, depending on where you look it up, but ultimately he was in the works for over a year before he was officially published. Power/abilities, superhuman. Okay, so I just put superhuman. This is why. So, the super soldier serum is meant, as stated in the Scopely blog post, the super soldier serum is meant to give a person the highest absolute possibility, capabilities that a human can have. And a lot of people will say, well, he doesn't have any superpowers. He is the absolute peak. That's not true, right? He is past the ability of humans 100%. That's why other people can't achieve it. Even these people that are extremely trained, whatever, he is past the peak. Even though this is one of the times I'm going to argue with the comics instead of using the comics as an argument. He is past peak. The whole thing where people are, they kill lots of people trying to recreate the serum, it's because you can't just achieve this, right? You can't unlock it by any other means. It is superhuman. It is not, with that he has powers. He has super strength, super speed. His mind is past peak. He's a super strategist. He's got, over 10 in each of his categories in D&D terms, or not over 10. He's maxed out anyway. I'm talking about like a level 1 character. He's maxed out plus, right? You can't actually achieve this as a human without some sort of outside help, right? He fights gods, right? Anyway, I digress. Let's continue. aliases. Nomad and the Captain. So, obviously, Captain America, that's sort of his main thing, whatever. He ends up in many situations. So, as it stands, he goes into World War II. He wants to help his country. He wants to do the right thing. He's a paladin, right? He wants to do the right thing no matter what, etc. And then the United States government's like, hey, the Nazis have this kooky dude named Red Skull, and he looks wild. And he very much, he almost looks like a living swastika. So we need a living American flag. Boom, here's your costume, right? So Captain America goes by, at first he is 100% on the USA ideology, 100% American propaganda, etc. But once he becomes kind of keen on, oh, hey, a government body isn't always the thing to do, he casts off the mantle of Captain America, and I've actually talked about that in a previous Frosty feature now that I'm thinking about it, but I cannot remember which Frosty feature it was now. But anyway, he casts off, U.S. Agent. Frosty Features USA, check it out. But he casts off the so in the MCU he more or less disappears, retires, whatever. In the OG he doesn't agree with America's kind of way, and he casts off the mantle of Captain America, and he becomes a nomad, and he's just kind of a vigilante, and eventually adapting also the name of the Captain under as other people are. I believe 13 different people have been Captain America. So he sometimes operates outside of that, but typically, as comics do, he always comes back around to being Captain America one way or the other. Affiliations, Avengers, Invaders, U.S. Army, many. Pretty much if there's a team in Marvel, Captain America deals with it. Either, just to help out or as an official member of the team. He has been around since 1940, quite a while, little over 80 years now. So, really, he's been around in everything. He's fought everything. He's always a part of. He's the guy, right? Really big thing, especially, and we'll talk about kind of the comic history of this. But after Avengers #4 is when you really start to see Captain America more or less as we recognize him in a modern way, right? Background, Brooklyn, New York, first generation American. His parents are Irish immigrants. So he is the first, he's a first generation American, parents from Ireland. He's the embodiment, back in the 1940s, the embodiment of the American dream. His parents got over here, raised him. He's an American, and he's so proud of the fact that he is American. He becomes Captain America, right? He's fighting for justice and all that is good, right? Back in the 1940s. That's just kind of how we started. So who died? Dr. Erskine. So Dr. Erskine, a general, I forget his last name, General Chest or something, overhears, so not in the MCU, Erskine is the one that hears Steve Rogers, and then he kind of inserts himself, and then he recruits Steve Rogers. In the comics, he is overheard by a general at a recruiting place because, he's hopping around trying to do whatever he can to become a part of the process. And so the general overhears him and then sends him to Project Rebirth, and then sends him to Dr. Erskine, who has recently figured out how the super soldier serum works, and we'll talk about that in a second. The Invader. So after getting supered out and stuff like that, there is a situation where ultimately a bunch of super powered individuals kind of come together. So your OG invaders included the Human Torch. There was a Human Torch before the Fantastic Four, right? The Human Torch was an android who he pretty much was the same. He might as well not even have been an android, but essentially there's an android who could set himself on fire, fighting for the U.S., right? In World War II. So OG Human Torch is part of it. Namor, the Submariner, I talked about it on a previous Frosty feature, but Namor actually was a character in the comics before Captain America. He's an OG, so a part of the Invaders. Namor, the Submariner, really big now because of Wakanda Forever. So we talked about Namor a little bit today, and then of course, Human Torch had and Captain America had sidekicks. Sidekicks were really big in the 1940s, 1950s. So Captain America's sidekick being good old Bucky Barnes, the boy, more or less a boy wonder type, a Robin type at the time. And for the Human Torch, it is a guy named Toro, who is actually very similarly powered to the Human Torch, so it's almost like two Human Torches just kind of there. But ultimately they save Winston Churchill in a plane crash, and he refers to them as the Invaders, and that's how they get their name. Isaiah Bradley and Rebirth. Okay, so here's the thing. This is one of the things I really wanted to talk about. I talked about it, I believe, last week on stream a little bit. So we're going to talk about it in the Frosty feature because I think it's really important. It's cool. So first off, recommended reading on what I'm about to say is called Captain America Truth. So it's really cool, really awesome. Dr. Erskine, right? In the MCU, he's kind of portrayed as this like really nice dude. He's looking for the best in people, etc. But so Erskine had a hand in Isaiah Bradley, things like that. But ultimately what happens after Captain America, after Steve Rogers gets the super soldier serum and it works and Erskine dies, there's this entire situation where everybody and their mother is trying to recreate the super soldier serum to the point where I'm going to go with most, it might not be mathematically correct if you math it out, but most superheroes, supervillains, etc. spawn from the super soldier serum that was given to Captain America. A lot of the Marvel universe, multiverse even, hinges on this super soldier serum that humans are trying to use. For example, Spider-Man has a lot of ties to the super soldier serum. The reworking of the spiders ties back to people trying to recreate a super soldier serum. Hulk, the gamma radiation testing, same thing. So a lot of villains, a lot of heroes actually come back to people trying to recreate the super soldier serum. So right after Erskine dies, there are 300 African Americans taken in a continuation of Project Rebirth where they are trying to replicate the serum, and Captain America Truth is about this group of African Americans who were taken and kind of put through these tests and with all these super soldier serums and such, and there is only one survivor, being Isaiah Bradley, who and ultimately, this is a group of people who are like, they're seeing, because Captain America was also used as propaganda, right? So even in the comics, there are comics of Captain America. So this group of individuals sees this Captain America, and as Isaiah Bradley starts to lose his friends who are going with him through this situation, he slowly kind of identifies with Captain America. He's like, I'm the we're the Captain Americas that no one's talking about. And eventually he steals a Captain America costume and another one of these kite style shields. And he dons the Captain America name for years before they, more or less, the United States government trashes him, and he becomes, as he ages, things go real south. He becomes impotent and a bunch of other things. His mental deterioration has happened. Big thing, but fantastic. He also is related to Eli Bradley, the Patriot. So definitely, ultimately, Captain America Truth is fantastic. There's a whole thing about Steve Rogers not knowing that this, experimentation continued. It's still Project Rebirth. And there's a whole thing about Steven Rogers finding out about Isaiah Bradley in the run. It is so good. The trade is really cheap. When I saw Captain America World War II, I was kind of hoping we would get Isaiah Bradley in the game. He's brought up and his story is told in Falcon and Winter Soldier on Disney Plus, so definitely check it out. That's all World War II as well, that happened through the same time period. So I just wanted to throw it out there. Really interesting, really cool stuff, right? So I just wanted to throw it out there. One other thing before I move on to the next thing is I want to talk about Captain America's costume a little bit. So one of the reasons why I wanted to use this old picture, I'm going to justify it as many ways as I can. You see that he has nothing on his chin. It actually becomes a big thing in the comics where in fighting, he gets hit so hard he loses his mask and his identity is shown more or less on camera, because, you know, propaganda, they're following him around with whatever they can as far as cameras and stuff go. So they redesign his suit to so his helmet kind of goes under his chin, so he has a chin strap so he doesn't lose his helmet. I thought this was kind of fun, and it's very early in the comics, which is why it's really hard to find pictures of him without the chin strap. So there you go. All right, up next, relationships. Joseph and Sarah Rogers' parents. Peggy Carter is his notable lover because of the MCU. He has many relationships. Black Widow. There's quite a few, so I didn't list them all out. Ian Rogers' adopted son. You know, as Marvel Comics works, somebody stole, Ian Rogers becomes Nomad. Somebody stole Captain America's DNA and makes a little Captain America, right? There's no credited mother. It's a test tube situation, and Steven Rogers saves him. So anyway, in short, the relationship list goes really long. Lots of on again, off again lovers, but notably Peggy Carter. There's a lot. So I shortchanged you on this one, YouTube. I'm sorry. Notable events: Invaders and the U-Man. So this is the situation, the U-Man being another of an Atlantean. So and I cannot remember for the life of me what the MCU has changed the Atlanteans' names to, but Namor is actually from Atlantis in the comic books, and an Atlantean that always sort of opposed Namor. He ends up joining the side of the Nazis, and he takes on the name of U-Man. So U-Man obviously is kind of a play on the U-boat term, which is the Unterseeboot, which is the submarines that the Germans would use. So he is Unterwassermann, so he's U-Man, and he is the one, and as you can see here, there's a knocked out Namor and Bucky and other people in the back. He is a very strong Atlantean. He plays second fiddle hard to Namor a lot, but anyway, he sides with the Nazis, and he is the one that puts the plane, including Winston Churchill, in threat or whatever, and Captain America and everybody shows up to take him out and saves the day, and that's how they become the Invaders, right? And the Invaders they're actually they're not around that much in the comics. Like they do a lot, they do things together, but as far as the run goes, they're not that major of a situation. The second iteration of the Invaders come later, still including Namor and Captain America and such. But yeah, that's sort of that. As far as notable events go, a lot of, so because of Polar Bear Plunge that I'm about to talk about, it dives very heavily into comic book history. So ultimately, in the 40s when they were writing this, they were doing a lot of the same things over and over and over again, mostly hopping in, fighting Nazis, and then, oh, hey, this week's appearance is another big name from World War II, Winston Churchill or FDR, etc., etc. So, like, for an example, Captain America originally is issued a steel shield, right? It's just to look cool. He gets a shield and a gun, right? He does not have a vibranium shield. And after a while, I think it's maybe like issue like 32 or something of the original Captain America run. I cannot remember. The number's probably wrong. But ultimately, FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, gives him the vibranium shield, and it's a really big deal, and it's huge. But he actually does not start with it. He's not just given a shield right away. There's a lot of build up before he gets the vibranium shield. So just for context, he doesn't start out with it. FDR gives it to him. There's no Anthony Stark giving it to him. It is like that. So, with all that, the Polar Bear Plunge. So, you know, we've all seen Marvel, right? We've seen Marvel, or we've read Marvel. There's a situation involving a plane and Captain America, and he ends up in the Arctic Ocean and freezes, and then he's discovered years later, right? Well, that's not actually how it's written in the comics. Fun fact, right? So that's actually a retcon. So it is probably the most famous and accepted retcon in Marvel Comics, debatably probably the most accepted one of all time. But in the original run of Captain America, he goes through World War II and continues. He doesn't end up in the ice. He fights, they win, they go through the Battle of Berlin, they win World War II, and then he moves on to fighting commies in the early 50s. But in the so throughout the 40s, it's superheroes are really big, really popular, whatever. And then after, you know, the nukes are dropped and things like that, you know, tide shift. In 1949, 1950 sees a really, really big drop in superhero popularity, to the point where Captain America runs until 1950, and he gets canceled because no one's buying the superhero comics anymore. To the point where it even kind of Captain America almost becomes a horror comic. There's a lot of horror stories, Captain America Presents style things, and it becomes it's a big event. It's a big thing that slowly Captain America gets canceled. And then, if I remember correctly, it's 1954. They bring him back and they try another run of Captain America, which fails and is canceled by like 1957, and he's gone. Captain America's gone. There's no comics until the Avengers bring him back. So in Avengers number 4, I'm pretty sure I wrote this down. Yes. In 1964, so there's almost a 10-year gap without Captain America. And in Avengers number 4, where the Avengers end up fighting Namor, oddly enough. Namor's always there. Avengers are fighting Namor. They find a frozen body in the Arctic Ocean. And in Avengers number 4, they describe that there's a situation where Baron Zemo sends a droned plane with a bomb to take out, I can't remember, like Washington, D.C. or something. And Bucky and Steve Rogers kind of hop onto it. And Steve falls and Bucky stays on. Bucky blows up over the Arctic Ocean, is presumed dead. And Cap sinks and is frozen, but he survives because of the super soldier serum within his blood, and it puts him in a comatose type state. And he is in cryostasis until he is revived in the 1964. So there's less than a 10-year time gap. Well, and they said it in the retcon. It's actually a little over 20 years. But Marvel works on a sliding time scale, so everything adjusts. So his time in the water. So he wasn't in the water officially in the comics until 1964, and ever since then, with the sliding time scale, every decade it gets longer and longer and longer that he stays in the water, right? Even in the MCU, where he gets pulled out of the water in 2012, not 1964, right? They never actually give it a hard year. Outside of the MCU puts hard years on things, but in the comics they try not to, because they work on the time scale, the sliding time scale. It's what prevents Marvel from restarting their universe over and over and over like DC does. So that's kind of cool, all neat stuff. I thought all of that was kind of cool stuff. A lot of people might not know about Captain America, that he originally did not take the polar bear plunge, but instead he just kept on going, and he fought Nazis through some of the 50s. Commies through some of the 50s. So there it is, very unsuccessful, and then has completely 180 turned around, or 360 turned around, and has become a cultural phenomenon throughout the world. So yeah, that's just kind of cool. So power scale, power level. Marvel Strike Force doesn't care about power scale, but I do. So the way this works, if you are a multiversal power level, you are a threat to all of reality, not just your reality, but all the adjacent realities as well. You can put an end to everything all at once. If you are of a universal scale, you can end your universe, probably hop over to another one and end that one, kind of a one at a time situation. Cosmic level, on the small end, you are a threat to a planetary body. You can level planets at whim. And with a little grit and determination, maybe you could take out a solar system or small galaxy. Nuclear means you have the power equal to that of a nuclear bomb. You can level small cities all the way up to maybe a small planetary body, once again, with a little effort applied. Super soldier means you are just past peak human. There is a very specific character whose name is escaping me maybe right now, I don't know, who is the standard for this power level. We may be talking about him right now. I don't know. But yes, so it is just past the peak ability of standard human beings. City level means you are a human being type. and you are at the very highest level of, you are at peak. You are extremely trained. You continue to train. You are very strong, very skilled, etc. You can possibly take out, so super soldiers can take out brick walls, level buildings. City means you can fight maybe multiple people at one time, take them out, etc. And then there's Greg. Greg is the undead Asgardian spawned by Hela and Marvel Strike Force, and other than recent buffs, he used to be quite a peon. Even now in the game, he's kind of starting to swing back to the way. So, for the sake of argument, undead Asgardian physiology aside, for the sake of argument, people, we're gonna put Greg on a regular level, and if I have a bag full of spark plugs and a NOS energy drink, I theoretically could take out Greg, right? So in the case of Captain America, surprise, surprise, he is the standard by which Super Soldier is measured. Right, so in every way, 100%, he is the OG man of the Super Soldier Serum. He is what everyone is after as far as like attaining. Captain America's Super Soldier, no surprise to anyone else. So on this, back to According to Scopely. So part of the problems here, I was surprised they got the general thing right. I definitely thought they would have gone to Erskine. We've had a couple of conversations about Frosty features, about how, well, they're going to go off of the MCU. In this, they reference directly, right there, where the general overhears them, etc. That is from the comic books. So they kind of pick and choose whether or not they do these things. So half of this is from the comics, half of this is from the MCU, which is kind of the problem. So, he does not, he does receive extensive training. He is overheard by a general, and he's trying to get in, to enlist to fight in World War II, but he is not given a vibranium shield right out the gate. He's given that steel shield. That's very important, because him getting the vibranium shield is him getting that national recognition by the President of the United States, which is a big thing. And yes, so some of this is right, some of this is wrong, and Scopely got it twisted, right? They took two different lores and mashed them all up, put it in, and they're like, hey, that's our character. That's Captain America World War II. So there we are. That is Frosty Features Captain America World War II. I hope you all enjoyed it. I obviously did not hit everything on Captain America. Tell me what your favorite things that I missed below, what are your favorite Captain America moments. Let me know in the comments. That'll be super cool to read through. Also, if I got anything wrong, hit me up. That's totally fine. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And as a reminder, I stream every Sunday, Central Standard Time, at the link above, starting at 8 a.m. on Twitch. Come hang out. We do Frosty Features live and have a good time with it. We've got a lot of these Invader characters to go, so we got plenty of things to come. Yeah, so that's all we've got today. Like, share, subscribe again. Yeah, thank you all so much. I hope you all had a good time. I hope you all have a fantastic week. And most importantly, y'all, stay cool.